Back with Keeping Current with Kansas City. This is that Bell from the KC Soccer Journal with me, Carrie from Off to See the Wizards in the KC Soccer Journal, Daniel Sperry from the Star, and various other things, man. We'll have to catch up on that later. We're trying to do a quick one tonight because it's late, tired, people are needing their rest. And I don't know if we really want to talk a lot about some of this stuff, but first of all, Carrie, how are you?
I'm doing good. It was a long week for Casey Soccer, and I'm excited
Yeah.
to hopefully get back in the W column,
Kansas City was outscored 11-1 last weekend, and the only team that scored was SKC2. Not a good
And
weekend.
yeah, and how it was in like second half stoppage time too. So it was
It
a
was
long time without seeing a goal.
yeah.
And I watched all three matches.
Yeah. Actually, SKC2 did play well. This is not an SKC pod, but
It was the
SKC2
best
played
soccer
well.
played. That was the best soccer played by any Kansas City team that weekend. They just lost.
They lost 2-1, and it was by far the best game of any of those pro teams. All right. Um, Daniel, how are you doing?
I'm all
Did you
right.
survive this last like 11-1 weekend?
I survived it. I was in a car accident on Wednesday that I also survived, so that's good news. But yeah, I it's been a wild week. Yeah, man. What just it's been hard lately with all of these teams too.
Yeah.
I mean, not like I mean, I get it. This is our job and you write about it no matter what's happening and you keep telling the story and sometimes it's a lot shorter nights and a lot easier times when they're bad. Sometimes when they're good, you're like, gosh, what do I write about? There's so many things you could write about. You get paralyzed by it. Sometimes when they're
Yeah.
bad, it's you might get paralyzed from having to write about the same freaking thing that they keep doing all over and over and over again. But yeah, I mean, it still doesn't take away from the drain sometimes that the grind covering teams can be. And right now, everything is a grind covering soccer in Kansas City.
It is. I'm trying to like work on some stuff that'll kind of like tie some of that stuff together, but we'll see if it works out. All right. Just current lost 4-0 at Washington. So again, still can't win on the road, can't get a point on the road. They are 2-4 in all four games on the road.
Mhm.
They've given up as many goals as they did all of last year, and it's just not a very pleasant thing.
Yeah, we're
Um,
looking at a historical season of only away losses and only home wins
so far,
so far,
again, as Mike Kuhn liked to point out, was Sporting has more road points than the Current do.
which certainly is saying something.
SKC2 has more points than the Current do on the road.
Also saying something.
I know.
But it was pretty sad. So I was driving up to Chicago during the KC Current game because the next day Sporting KC was playing in Chicago. And I have family up there, so it was nice to see them. They were my only highlight of the weekend. But we were probably 2 to 3 hours outside of Chicago whenever we kept getting when the game started. So, we're in that last 2-hour grind. It's like 9 PM, and we just keep getting notifications every single goal, and it was really sad.
Yeah. My daughter was playing a game of indoor co-ed, and she's older, so it's not like she's a kid, but I still like to see her play and support her and all that stuff. But that's the game was she was playing when the game had was on. So I was like looking at the scores and getting the notifications like you, and made it home for the second half. That wasn't any better the second half.
No, it was not. Um, you're in a spot that you're down, you're pressing, you're trying to get something right, and especially like going into halftime, conceding the goal that you do too,
Yeah.
off a corner kick that should have been taken care of. Looking at the goals in this game and the way it's set up, like in reality, until the fourth goal happened, it still should have been 1-0. And we talked about, I don't know if we had issues with the pod that we recorded last week, so I don't know if it
Right.
ever got out there into
No.
the
Sorry, and again, sorry about that for everybody. We did record a full pod. We had great discussions about pies, cakes, and the shortcomings of the Current. But technical issue caused a corruption in the file, and it just long story. Sorry about that.
But yeah, going
It was
back
a
to it,
great pod.
it was a really good pod. Sadly, it will never see the light of
I
day.
I I am gonna try to pull the pie cake discussion out at some point and just tack it on to one of our other pods
Yeah.
as a
I mean, we
bonus
should say
material.
this was an entire segment for listeners, like, this
We
was a
spent
good
we
10
spent about as
minutes.
much on the Teal Rising Cup as we did on cake, pie, and desserts. It was good.
Yes.
Anyways, back to the soccer before we derail it like we did last week. I'll say I played a huge role in that, so I'm calling kettle black.
Look,
Lorena,
you did not you were not the only one, man. I started
it
it. So,
was a group effort. We did discuss though, when actually talking soccer, that Lorena has not looked right, and that just happened again. I mean, that
yeah,
Washington game, and I don't know if it's something that goalkeeper confidence is really fickle sometimes because you can get in that spot where maybe the next game a save comes up and that confidence comes back and the rhythm becomes fine. If it's an injury, you can rest. If it's not an injury, it's hard to pull that goalkeeper until, because what you don't want to do is really shoot confidence.
right.
And writing that line is very delicate, but we're at a point where there needs, like, it should be a serious question. And I did ask Armis about, like, is she healthy? Is she right? What's going on? Because these aren't mistakes that are characteristic of the Lorena that we knew when she was signed and the characteristics of the Lorena we saw last year.
Yeah,
And when you're a team that's already having some issues and covering the margins, and making and winning in the margins, um, goal like mistakes like that, like goalkeepers, when they make a mistake, it results in a goal. 99% of the time, a goalkeeper mistake results in a goal against. And so when you have multiple of those in the same game, two self-inflicted wounds, three of the last, what, five goals that they've conceded, were actually four of the last six, because you go back to the Portland goal, the second goal in Portland that the Current have conceded, you can directly look and say that was probably a mistake from Lorena, and that's just so uncharacteristic. And I think for me, that's a much more of an alarm bell for the success of this team right now than what's going on in the midfield, than what's going on at number nine. Like, if Lorena's not right and the goalkeeper position is not right, they're going to continue to hemorrhage goals because and they are not in a position where they can take that.
Yeah, FootMom's got her listed at 4.1 for this last game, which I think we made fun of Jansen Miller for having, like, 3.4 last year as a rookie. Um, yeah.
FODMOB scores should not be end all be all in my opinion, but but I believe her score should have been pretty low considering the first that the goal that she concedes off the corner kick is really poor, and then it ball just seemed to go straight through her hands. Although on the third goal, although she was screened a tiny bit, I'll say it was
yeah.
harder for sure than the second goal that went in, but still, that's the goalkeeper. Like, you expect, if she's getting her both hands on it, that shouldn't be a goal, and that is where that's where my concern is right now.
And I'll just add in that you're right that there's goals that she has let in that the Lorena we knew would have saved. The problem is that there are goals that she let in that third string keepers on teams would have made saves. That's the problem. Like, she's not even at a I don't think she's not even saving goals at a par level, at an average level of an NWSL goalie. We know she can. We know she can be spectacular. Last year, she gave up like 2 goals that maybe could have been saved, I think, in the whole year, 3 goals, something like that. It was very
Yeah,
few because, I mean, they only gave up 13, so that's pretty damn good percentage. Um, but she's letting in goals that average keepers should have made. And I don't know if that is an injury, if it's a mental thing, if it's the defense is not doing everything they can, the midfield's not doing everything they can, but she could have made some of those saves.
yeah, and it's one of those too where, like, okay, a shot goes in, you're like, you didn't do a great dive,
Right.
or something like that. You could say the shot seemed too slow, it should have happened, but, like, I mean, they're true gaff errors and coming out and missing, and coming for a cross and missing, and it wasn't the first time that she came for a cross and missed in that game, and they were lucky that that one wasn't put away. That one was skied over the bar second, minutes before Rodman made it 2-0. So, like, that for me is where, not whenever, like, it just seems like everything, literally everything is going wrong in that moment and in that game. And yet, like, you look at expected goals and stuff like that, and it was a pretty tight game. And even with all of the chances that I talked about the death by a million paper cuts that, that XG number looks like for Washington Spirit last week. They take a ton of shots. They're not all great high quality shots, high quality chances, but you look back at that game, they have 1.7 XG. They probably deserved to score two of those four goals by just like, okay, that was good play. There wasn't I mean, there were mistakes in the build in defending the build up to that goal. Don't get me wrong, but like you had to get four goals out of 1.7 xg is telling about the keeper situation at the moment.
It's time to refresh your yard during spring backyard days at the Home Depot. Get low prices guaranteed on propane grills starting at $179, like the Next Grill 3-burner gas grill. Or get $50 off a select Weber Spirit grill and bring big flavor to your backyard. Then set the scene with Hampton Bay string lights that bring it all together. Shop spring backyard days for 7 days at the Home Depot, now through May 6th. Exclusions apply. See homedepot.com/price match for details.
It is. Now, I always try to be fair, even though I will, quite often make sure I express my disdain for certain hires and things like that. But I always try to be fair about how I describe these things. And it was a situation where Croy Bethune had a one-on-one in with the keeper in like the 15th minute or something like that. If she scores that goal, now there's a little bit of confidence. There's a little bit of something. And I'm not saying they win that game. They still might have lost it 2-1 or something, but now there's a little bit of confidence. There's a little bit of momentum. Things change a little bit. Oh, that's like an old cliche. Goals change games. Of course they do. That's how you count score. That could have made a big difference.
That goal, and there was one too where Timo Chawinga was flying in on goal and had rounded McIver, and Dabinia seemed to take it off her foot for whatever reason, and it did not score the chance. And that you look at that moment, and that's another huge moment, a huge let off that they had. So there were a couple of moments that they had there that they could have gotten themselves back in the game, and they weren't able to do it.
Yeah, they had their opportunities. They could have at least made a statement in the game, an attempt. And I know you didn't see it live, Carrie, and I don't know if you watched the entire game. I know you've went through the highlights for dang sure, but just any other additional thoughts?
I mean, outside of Setner, yet again missing in this midfield, but yet when she gets called up to national teams, she is present. She's there. She's fitting in well. Something just isn't clicking with her right now.
Yeah, and it's I know one of the discussions we had last week was Hopkins, and perhaps could be taking more starting or taking that 9 spot. I think it was last week, or was it the week before?
Yeah, it was last week.
Okay.
We gave predictions for this current lineup, and then Sperry and I basically made our case for Haley Hopkins being hot from the Teal Rising Cup.
I also
And
made my case for Laney Rouse, and I
right.
continue to feel vindicated about making that case the more I watch games.
Yeah, fair enough. I do think you both predicted a win.
I predicted it like a
We did.
pretty decent scoreline win, and
He said
that
2-0.
no, I said 3-1, right? I said something where it was
Yeah.
a lot of goals for the Current, and it was
Okay.
not a lot of goals for anybody.
I think I was the only one that didn't predict a win, and I think I predicted a draw, just as trying to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely read the room wrong.
Very wrong.
Well, I think I think we're just reading it that there is enough quality on this team that they should be getting better results. And a lot of people are kind of down on Sentner. I know Chad wrote an article about they should trade her, and I don't think that's a probable thing right now, 'cause since she's only a couple months away from the midpoint. Nobody would want to pay for her when they could sign her for a future contract, unless they were just very desperate. And I don't think she's the problem. I think it's who's playing out there. Now, she didn't score a lot of goals for the current last year, but she didn't need to because everybody else was scoring until they weren't.
Yeah.
And this year they have 5 goals, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, 5 goals. And they're going to be going up against a team this weekend that one player has 5 goals. Hardly any other players have scored on that team, but that's beside the point. Got to pick and cherry pick the stats and facts that I want to use at the time. But I don't think center is the problem. I think that they're trying to play everybody out there at one time, and they're getting in the way. Armas kind of said he wants Dabinia and Sentner in the same area, right next to each other.
And it works if they can not get on a not actually be in the
Right.
same place at the same time. In the same vicinity is different than literally trying to occupy the same 1 foot by 1 foot space on the
Right.
field. And that's what it looks like right now.
Too many cooks in the kitchen. Someone just needs to step out for a second.
Yeah. And that is something that I would be doing if I was coaching is I would have a different mix of players on the field, I think. And I understand why you want to have some of those, but
I think
they're too many
there's
similar
too
players.
there's too many people that want or need the ball at their feet to make
Yeah.
things happen. And there's too much to go around. Too much of that to go around. And I posed this question at the beginning of the year to a couple of them of like, there's only one like there's a great saying in the NBA is like there's only one ball. And it's
Yeah.
so true. There's only one ball. That's why the point guard in basketball is the facilitator. And that's why the number 10 is the facilitator. You can't have two people doing that. And you could maybe one wide and one in the middle and have two others that are looking to play in and behind and get off the shoulder and combine and stuff like that. Telma does that really well. Bia Bia knew how to operate without the ball. Right now, the Current don't have a central focal point that knows how to operate without the ball, except for Haley Hopkins, or can do so in a "I'll be a backboard for you" type of way.
Right.
And right now, Haley Hopkins is the only one who anywhere on the field has shown that type of ability. Even when she plays on the wing, they play her like she's a striker playing out in the wide channel. They lob the ball up to her and play off of her. And so is what they did with Bia a ton of times. And so like that's been my case for that, but like it really is their issue. And you could say so many tens, there's so many people. The issue is that they have so many people that need the ball at their feet in that offense. And in reality, that's not gonna you get too many people ball hunting, and then you've got people trampling over them in the same spaces. You've got not enough people spread out in the right spaces to pick up things at the back post because everybody decided to make a near post run. Like that those are the kind of things that we gotta look at that are for this team and some of their issues because that's what's hurting them in the attack.
Yeah, I would agree, even though I didn't quite hear all of that. I think hopefully it'll show up in the later recording. But yeah, when you have again, not blaming Allie, not blaming Dabinia, not blaming Croy or any of those players, that's the kind of player they are. And that's the problem with the roster construction is you have really good players that are best when they are doing things with the ball. That's not their fault. That's just the way it is. All right. I know we said originally we weren't going to talk a whole lot about the previous game. North Carolina they're okay this year. They're not great. They're not spectacular, but they are above the Current in the standings. You got anything you want to break them down on?
That last game they had was fun. Boston finally gets multiple goals for the first time since the beginning of their legacy, we'll say that. And,
Establishing a legacy.
yeah, exactly, and for a second, I was like, "Crap, are we actually gonna see a Boston win?" Nope. North Carolina comes back in the second half to tie it up, and it stays a draw at 2-2.
Yeah, North Carolina I mean, they're pretty much almost dead even. They're 9 points in 6 games, 1-1 and 1 at home, 1-0-2 on the road. They've scored 8, they've given up 8. I think the biggest advantage right now for the Current is when the Current had that 3-game stretch when they played in 7 days, 8 days, whatever it was, it sucked for them. North Carolina's in that. The difference is they're at home. They've at least got to be home for part of that time,
Yeah, and
and
they
the
can
travel was not as far.
that's right, and they continue to stay home.
Their top scorer, Ashley Sanchez, I believe. I had it pulled up a second ago, but of course I had
Yes.
to close that window. She scored 5. She's been one of their best scorers or the best scorer this year, and she's going to be dangerous. What do you see from Ashley Sanchez, Daniel?
I think she is a dangerous player. She's kind of rounding into the form that we saw of her in her time with the Spirit. I get she's got 5 goals. Manaka Matsukubo is a player that you also got to watch out for. But she is playing kind of lights out, less being asked to be the number 10 and the playmaker. Hence, players like Matsukubo and Koyama as well. Courtney Vine is a great like kind of presser type forward. And they've got a hold up striker that's kind of interesting. But I'm telling you, that I think this Ashley Sanchez is the player to watch, and she's
Yep.
going to be going at the right side of that defense, and that's been a place that teams have found some joy lately. So I'd be really interested to see how the current try and deal with that, because that's an area that if their best attacker is going to be ready to kind of launch it at them in a spot that's been weak for them.
D do
Right.
you keep Ellie out there?
I think I'm doubling down on my unfortunately unheard advocacy of Laney Rouse being the team's right back, at least in that game. I thought Ellie did okay against Trinity, but Trinity also really floated inside and was kind of more so than kind of being out in wide spaces. But I will say that I think Sanchez is a player who will use the touch line, and I think that that's a area that they're going to try to feed her, and they need somebody who can read the game and read those passes. And I think Rouse has shown that she's pretty adept at doing that. So I'd be interested to see. I'd be interested to see her get a shot, especially against a really good winger. Give her a shot to show it what we saw in the Teal Rising Cup, because I think she's a, I think she's kind of miss. She brings, I think, what the Haley, not fully what Haley Mace was there, but she's the closest thing they've got to what Haley Mace was there for them.
Yeah, which it always surprises me because Ellie, I mean, we liked her so much over the last couple of years. Well, last year especially, but just all the things she could do, and so I hate to see her not getting her time there. But it may be time to try somebody different. You're right.
Yeah. Well, you've got to earn the spot, and
Yeah.
we can't have just we're holding this spot for this player because we're paying
No.
them so much or all that.
Mhm.
It's at this
No.
point it's about a win.
Right. At least a point. The
Yeah.
point on the road right now is a win for them. To get to break the we can't win on the road, we can't get a point on the road streak. That's just getting any kind of point is a big thing for them at this stage of their season.
Yeah.
Any other changes? I mean, I think you both advocated for starting Haley Hopkins up top. You still do that?
Yeah.
I still would, but that's also based off, like, not getting to see the last game.
So, all right. So we're gonna just run back real quick. Timwa on the left, Haley in the middle,
Mhm.
Coop on the right.
Yep.
And I will go for that this
Yes.
time. What about the midfield? Who you doing?
I think you still got to stick with Croy and Low. Um, I don't think that I mean, Matsukubo is a problem, but I don't think that the North Carolina midfield is as dangerous as what Washington had. I do think. I mean, they're good players. Don't get me wrong, but it's also different when it's Hal Hirschfeld and Lacey Santos and some of those players kind of bombing in. So I mean, I'm not saying that it wouldn't be great, but I also think that there are other things that can happen in those moments where Croy and Lowe maybe were a little bit absent defensively on a couple of those goals and those cutbacks. But in reality, I don't pin a whole lot about what happened in that game on them. Um,
No.
Even honestly, even not having Claire in there, I'm sure Claire probably would have made things a little bit better in there. But I'm kind of beyond that being a crutch because there's so many other peripheral issues that it's not just that. It's not the only thing. That's not the
No.
glue of the team. And I think that that's that question of like what we've seen really good things from Croy and Lowe. It's probably okay if they have a not great game or not their best game. So for me, I'm cool with them running it back there.
I am too. However, during Sperry's talk right there and then, I was looking at the rest. I wouldn't be mad to see a Bailey Feist in there. I think Davina or not Davina, I think Clarissa had a better game than what Labonte did. Granted, she, missed that sitter. And there was a few passes in there that just weren't it. But, um, I'd say if you're trying to get the point, put Labonta and Feist together because they're the more
Pepsi Prebiotic Cola in original and cherry vanilla. That Pepsi taste you love with no artificial sweeteners and 3 grams of prebiotic fiber. Pepsi Prebiotic Cola. Unbelievably Pepsi.
You can't reason with the sun. Trust us, we've tried. This summer, it's time to put that angry ball of fire on mute. Columbia's Omni-Shade technology is engineered to protect you from the sun's harsh rays that can burn and damage your skin. The sun is relentless, but so is our gear. Level up your summer at Columbia.com to spend more time outside and less time slathering on aloe lotion. You're welcome. Columbia, engineered for whatever.
they're the pair that has been around together longer. If you're really going for that point.
Yeah, and I think they're going to be a little better defensively. I mean, again, Croy had a good game there the other day. The first time she was really in there with that win at home, and I don't know. I still don't see her as a 6-ish player. I'd rather not see her as a 6-ish player because that's not her strength. At least as an 8 to a 10. But who would you play as the attacking mid?
Personally, I'd play because I'm still sticking with Croy and Low. I would play Dabinia there. I would sit Centnor and play Dabinia underneath the Hopkins and let them work off of each other. I think to me, I'm begging. I want to see it. I'm begging
I
you,
would
Chrysonis.
I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing Sentner in there as that, but the nice thing is if any of these 3 that we have potential of sitting also means they come in fresh in the 65th minute to attack. You know what I mean? So that's the benefit of it. That's the benefit of having a deep team of talent. You just got to find a right way to use it and make it most effective. Coach Chris did discuss the, you know, they tend to North Carolina tends to be a possession team. They tend to, Current tend to be a kind of a countering team. So Gotham went against what they expected them to do, and that's one of the reasons they got tore up a little bit. So they just went around their press because they wanted to press hard. And I think he said 1 out of 9 goal kicks was actually played out of the back. The other 8 were just sent long, and it just bypassed their entire press, which kind of screwed them up.
Yep.
That's also called coaching. All right. Predictions?
I was going to say a 2 draw. I still am not confident on any team in Kansas City holding a team to 1 or less.
Are you confident in them scoring
Yeah,
twice?
I don't think North Carolina's defense is as good as Washington's, frankly.
Okay.
And technically, the Current should have scored last game, at least 1.
At
It
least
could have
1.
scored 2.
Yeah.
Again, it would have made a big difference in the game. That game could have ended at 1-1, 2-2, or I mean, it could have still been a loss, but it could have at least been respectable instead of embarrassing. I'm going just because I'm going to be the contrarian. Imagine that. I'm going to say a 2-1 loss. Anything else we need to discuss today? Sperry's favorite subject of the NWSL changing the window failed.
We did it. They did it.
I
You hear my grumbles.
Haley Hopkins was asked about that today, and it was just very much like, "Yep, we did it. Yay." I'm surprised that they were that much of against it as a player union.
Yeah,
I think that
listening to
when
what
you
she said, I just felt like she was saying that there are other priorities in terms of player safety and facilities and standards that need to be held around the league, not just in certain markets. And by player health and safety, it's not like the players safe, is there a coach? I mean, I'm sure that's part of the equation, but in reality, they're talking more player health and safety in terms of making the switch. How do they do it? Is there even a good plan for it at the moment? And is there enough infrastructure set up for them to do that? That exists at MLS at this point. It does not exist in the NWSL. And I think that was a very good point that Miss Hopkins made. Sorry to step on you, Carrie, there.
I was just gonna say what you said, but credit Mitch Purse, who had kinda just said, "Let MLS do a few seasons of it, let's see where we're at, but also we are not the priority tenants in most of our stadiums."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, what would be the infrastructure that they would be lacking to be able to make the switch?
Their own training centers. I mean, like right now, Bay FC doesn't have their own. They kind of have their own, but they halfway share it with like San Jose State, like on that property. And I mean, look at some of the teams that have MLS teams in their markets. They share all of their facilities with MLS teams in Orlando and Houston, as well as Portland.
Okay, but so forgive me if I'm being dumb here, but why does that prevent them from making the switch?
I
The
th-
infrastructure exists year round. So if the MLS team is not using it, why can't they be using it?
it's a good question.
And if they're already sharing it, they could continue to share it.
Correct.
So that's why I don't understand that argument. And safety, I would rather play in 30-degree weather than 95-degree weather. Although I like the heat better, but I mean, as a player safety, it's better to play in freezing than it is at 95. Just ask the NWSL about that in Kansas City, right?
Don't shoot the
So,
messenger because I'm for the switch. So
well, I'm just trying to understand it. I mean, that's why I didn't understand that line of answer earlier
yeah.
of not now. If you want to say let MLS switch and for a year or two and then make it to so we could fix the mistakes that they make in that process, I kind of get it. But I just didn't understand the infrastructure or safety part because to me that equation doesn't change very much, or if at all,
Right.
or might even be better.
Yeah.
I don't want the switch for the NWSL, but you do for personal reasons. I don't for personal reasons. I want to have 3 months of each season that doesn't have a competition for me to have to go to 2 pressers in the same day. All right, that's your homework. Go figure out why. All right. Any other issues we need to bring up before we cut this short? Carrie's like, no, let me go to bed.
Don't got it.
All right. Thank you both for your time. Sorry for not getting the one out last week. Out of my control. And thank you both for joining. And thanks to everybody for listening. And we are out.
Attention passengers, we've now reached our destination. We hope you enjoyed the flight and have a nice day.